Hi, and welcome into Real Conversations. I am Thomas Manning with the Reel to Reel Film Festival from Kings Mountain, North Carolina. I'm so glad to be joined today by Kay Rubacek, the director of Finding Courage, a really moving documentary. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kay.
Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah. And to start things out, I want to get your thoughts on what it was like to dive right into this documentary as your directorial debut, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what did it mean to take on such a challenging adventure for you in your first project like this?
If I knew it was going to be this big, I may never have started it. Um, when we started this film, it was going to be an 8-minute short piece, a portrait piece about the main character and what she went through in China. And I thought, great, this will be a good opportunity for me to kind of cut my teeth and learn a bit more about directing. And then the story started to unfold more. Her brother got out of prison. He'd been in there for 13 years, and then suddenly he's out of prison, and we were able to follow him around and just see how, mega PTSD kind of situation there with him getting out of prison. It was really something to kind of watch that and see him heal over a couple of years. And then we got this footage from a labor camp in China and undercover footage. And really, that was the kind of turning point for me where, I said to my co-producer, this has to be a feature film. We've just got so much content here that there's no way we can do it justice in a short piece. And so it was really by default that it became my, a feature directorial debut for me. It wasn't like I came into this saying I'm going to tell this story. It really wasn't like that.
Yeah. And how difficult was it to kind of maintain composure and sensitivity to the subject material while also focusing on the direction and the storytelling and the task at hand because it's such a tragic, harrowing story. So, how was it like balancing those emotions?
It's really challenging. I guess one of the good things with documentary is that you kind of get to put the storytelling together in the edit. Um, so a lot of that, we had so much footage, well over 100 hours of footage that really had to go through and work out the storytelling. So I kind of didn't have to deal too much with the storytelling process during the emotional interviews. And that allowed me to kind of just let them speak and kind of just it was really important for me to kind of open up, help them open up and feel comfortable on camera. Many of them didn't want to go on camera, so it was just really important to get them to feel comfortable and not to direct them really too much in the interviews, and then to allow that storytelling process. It makes it harder in the editing, but yeah, that was what we needed to do, and I think in the end, it kind of added to the authenticity that they really just got to tell their story, and then in the editing process, that's when we got to really create that form of, the story arc and everything.
So, what is something that you've taken from your interactions with these remarkable individuals that have overcome so much that maybe you can apply to your own life, whether that be personally or professionally in your filmmaking career?
Oh, I really think I have already been doing that. There was times during, we took like 2.5 years to do the edit. And during that required a lot of patience, a lot of tolerance, a lot of rewriting, a lot of courage there just to keep going. There was times when I thought, what would Leo be thinking? One of our characters in the movie, where the things he went through in prison were just crazy. And I thought, wow, if these guys have been through that much, and I'm complaining about, I don't know, a few more days, a few more months, and they survived what they survived. I think I really don't have that much to complain about. So it really helps give another perspective on personal challenges, and it definitely, I've been applying that over these last couple of years. Throughout the process, I found them very inspiring characters from the beginning. So yeah.
Most certainly. And some of these interviews that you were able to track down were extremely exclusive. And even you had members of the Chinese government who either enabled or enforced some of the persecution laws. How difficult was them to get them to be a part of this?
That was a challenge. There was a number of them who refused to go on camera, and they're obviously not in the film. But they still did teach us some things. I felt that it was essential to have, and even though it was challenging to do, we had to do it because the family, you know, this is a story about a family, but the family, they're not in the persecution apparatus. They're not part of that machinery. You know, they're not the ones doing this stuff. So it's hard for them to really explain how can this type of thing happen. And I felt that's really important, that I understand and that the viewers get that opportunity to understand of like, how on earth can a persecution like this really take place? So it was just like a matter of persistence. And once we started to get one, then we were able to find another and another and another. If they, you know, we just followed every lead basically, and needed to really. They kind of speak a different language. These communist officials, they have their own kind of language, and it's hard for them to. I mean, they can express themselves in English, but even the translators for them had trouble translating for them from Chinese into English because they are speaking. It's like it's not like a normal Chinese. It's like a communist official language, and the experiences they have are not standard Chinese experiences. It's the part of this communist regime. So it was so eye opening for me, and it was very challenging. You know, for them to look at a you know, young white girl and kind of asking them questions, and they're like, you don't know anything. How are you going to understand what we've been through? And so I had to really overcome a lot of that stuff that and get their trust that yes, we don't understand, but we are really willing to try and understand, and we're going to try and do justice to what you went through. They didn't want to be seen as accomplices, although they were part of a regime that is really criminal, really criminal. So it's a delicate balance. Yeah, it was a lot of challenges had to be overcome.
Yeah. And there's so much stock footage and B-roll and old photographs that you had to work through. What was that process like, just cutting through this mountain of material and how did you decide what you were going to incorporate and what you were going to cut out?
Yeah, so much of it, and there's so much more that, like you said, there's so much there was a mountain of it that hasn't been used, and there's some pieces that we're planning on putting up, even just on our YouTube channel, just because they were just fascinating, and it's like, oh, we just want some of these pieces to be known as kind of background, but they didn't make the story, and ultimately everything had to come down to the story. What do people need to know to understand these people's story? There's lots of things I would have loved to put in there just because I think it's cool, it's interesting, it's fascinating, but yeah, I just had to leave it behind because if it doesn't fit the story, it doesn't, you know, kind of move people and bring you into the characters' lives, then it's just got to be left out.
And what does it mean to you to have the venue of film festivals to distribute your film like this to a film that otherwise might not get a wider audience?
Oh, it's so important. I mean, film festivals just get movies out to just a whole range of viewers. I just love it. I love going to film festivals. I love being a part of film festivals, and just every film festival has such a variety of audiences that come to it, and they're usually so open-minded and so willing to look at new films. I mean, you compare that to cinema goers, the movies that come out through the cinema. I mean, I used to go before the pandemic, you know, I went to the cinema all the time, but cinema goers, you know, usually like to play it safe, and everything's been vetted through studios and so many layers of decision makers, and then finally there's a few movies that come through the cinema and everyone goes to see them. But film festivals have a lot of brave people coming to watch movies, and I love that because they are willing to be at the forefront of what's new, try something. They may not like it, but they may love it. And, you know, oftentimes they get behind something because they really love it and they tell people about it, and that's fantastic. And when film festivals can screen on a big screen, I mean, that's just fantastic because you got everyone coming together, and even in pandemic situations, everyone's so many film festivals are really just trying to make things work, and we're just so inspired by that. And yeah, really value the film festival process. You know, we would love to just kind of put the film online and say, hey, this is an important story, let's watch it now. And people have said, why don't you get this out now? Because it's a topic people need to know about, and there are literally people dying as we speak because of this. But we really see that there's a lot of value in having a film go through the film festivals, because you just reach new audiences, you get feedback, you get a lot of rejections, and you get some of those, you know, you get some credit too, where you can actually say people really think this is an important movie to watch, and then more people are going to watch it later on. So I just think there's so many reasons why we really want to, you know, that we choose to delay the release of our films to go through the film festivals. And I think it's, as a filmmaker, it's just really valuable.
Yeah. Well, Reel to Reel is certainly honored to be showcasing your film. So thank you for everything that you did to make it possible.
Oh, we are so honored to be a part of Reel to Reel. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. And moving forward in your career as a filmmaker, do you anticipate telling more really human stories like this one, or do you think maybe you'll branch out into something else?
We're not sure as to where it will go. We are releasing a book related to this movie. It'll be out it'll be out within a month or two. And that's related to the stories from the officials, the former Chinese regime officials, because a lot of that it's hard to tell through a movie. So this will be like a kind of companion to the movie, and that's a bit of a departure to write a book. But I have done that because we just had these amazing stories that couldn't make it into the movie. So as to what comes next, we're kind of open, and still deciding. We've got a number of maybe documentary, maybe scripted. We'll see. Yeah, nothing totally confirmed yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we wrap things up, anything else you want to share about either the production of the film or a main takeaway that you want the audience to take from the story?
Let's say there's one thing that really drove us to keep going, was that some people have said, hey, this is a Chinese story, and you're not Chinese, you don't even speak Chinese, why are you telling this story? And I really look up to a lot of filmmakers who have done that. They've looked at other cultures, and they have helped to tell their stories. Because it's really hard for someone in a culture, say, for example, such as China, to tell their story to the West in English. If they said it themselves, it's really hard for Westerners, Americans, to understand that. So I think there's a lot of value in helping people to tell their stories, and a lot of value from looking at it from an outsider's point of view. And there's a lot of challenges in that too, but I think you can bring out a really good story that way and help be a bridge. So I feel like our role in making Finding Courage has really been a bridge to be able to bring these stories that really don't get heard very much, but they're really important, and they do affect what's going on in the US, and even more and more now. The stories from China, people are getting more and more interested in it, and we think that that's a lot of value there. So yeah, just being that bridge was something that really kept us going. That, you know, there's a lot of challenges here. We had to depend on a lot of translators to help us to get this done, but in the end, we felt it was really worthwhile because of that's a role that filmmakers can play. And when I see them doing that, it's definitely inspired me, and hopefully this film will inspire others to kind of look beyond just what you see on your day-to-day, what you're used to seeing, and maybe step into another zone where you're looking at another world. You're looking at people from a completely different culture, completely different background and language, and actually that's kind of fascinating. So I think it's really worth doing, and we found that very, very inspiring. Yeah.
And if people want to keep up with your work, whether that be through social media or a website you have, where would you send them?
Go to swoopfilms.com, SWOOP.films.com, and there you can follow us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. Sign up to our email list, whatever you like, we're there. So please follow what we're doing, and yeah, please come and please watch the film at Reel to Reel, and look out for its bigger release, release on more platforms in the future.
Well, Kay, thank you so much for your time today. We are very appreciative of everything that you've done.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. So glad to be a part of this.
And that's right, Thomas Manning with Reel to Reel Film Festival and Kay Rubacek, the director of Finding Courage, signing off for Real Conversations. Thank you for joining us today.